I grew up knowing I am adopted, and it's been an incredible blessing in my life. When I was 14 years old, I found out the story behind that adoption. I'm the survivor of a failed abortion. I now know that that abortion was forced upon my birth mother, and that she spent over 30 years of her life believing that I had died that day at the hospital. But I am so blessed to now have her in my life. This is my birth mother, Ruth. And I can't think of any better way to spend my birthday week than using it for good. Because it's one thing for me to share my story with the world, which is difficult enough on any given day. But it's a whole other thing for you to share your story. Because I think what you have to share with people is important and powerful too. And I think you've felt over the years that you couldn't share your story.
Oh, I very much so. I'm very ashamed of what I didn't do. I didn't stand up to my parents. My biggest regret was that I didn't run away with you and have you somewhere else. But I truly believe, Melissa, that everything in life happens for a reason. And we may never, ever know exactly the reason that this happened to either one of us. But if the reason was so that you didn't have to live with my parents as your grandparents and suffer the same abuse that I had to, then I'm so glad that you got to where you were with your adoptive parents and that they loved you and took you home, and
I understand.
You had a loving family and I did not.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you to explain, right? Because you and I have walked this out, and I know what you experienced, and I know what kind of led to that forced abortion taking place for you. But if you could tell people, right? And I think you're starting to. This is a great opportunity for you too. But I mean, what was it like for you growing up, or what ultimately led to that forced abortion?
Well, my brother was 4 months old when my mother got pregnant with twins, and I think that was the start of some of the evil. Can you imagine having a 4-month-old and then being told you were going to have twins on top of that 9 months later? I think my twin sister and I were just a burden from the get-go, and my family just treated us differently than my older brother and my younger sister. My dad was, he ended up being a school superintendent eventually. My mother was a nurse and then taught nursing at the University of South Dakota in Vermillion, South Dakota, where Melissa went to college. And I did too.
Another story, right?
Another story. So we were not allowed to shame the family, basically. We grew up with very strict rules, had to follow the rules, had to toe the line. I dated Melissa's biological dad through high school. He was 2 years older than I was. We dated all through high school. Once he got to college, I tried to break it off, but we ended up staying together. We got engaged, but he did cause a car accident that almost killed my twin sister. And so that was another wrench. You know, it was
Another reason for them not to like
right,
you.
another reason for them not to like you. I ended up getting pregnant at age 19.
But you didn't know it.
Well, no, I didn't.
For a long time.
No, I did not know it.
Which is funny because I hear those stories of women who don't know
Right.
that they're pregnant.
Right, I did not know I was pregnant. But one day my mom came in, felt my stomach. She's like, "You're pregnant." And she used to be an OBGYN nurse, so she has some knowledge of that. And she came in and she said, "Call Elliot over right away." So I did. And she proceeded to send my dad, my twin sister, and my little sister outside. And she screamed at us and told us she would take care of it. She had a doctor friend who owed her a favor. And I was snuck in the back door of the hospital. And they started this procedure. It lasted, like Melissa said, it lasted 5 days. Should have only lasted a couple days. And nobody ever examined me. I was never examined by a doctor. So the fact that I was in really good shape to begin with, and then nobody ever examined me, and I was definitely farther along than they thought. And the procedure took the 5 days when I didn't even know I had a boy or a girl. When the baby came out, they said, don't look at the baby, which I didn't, because I presumed it was deceased. My mother and my parents then told me the baby had died, and as far as I knew, that was it. And they then had an adoption hearing, and the court clerk was a friend of the family. Coincidence? Wow.
But a lot of that is just details we've had to try to figure out
Right.
in recent years.
Right.
But back then, I mean, so I know you went through that for 5 days. What was that like for you?
It was very, very bad. My twin sister tried to sneak me out, and I have no recollection of this at all. But she said she came up one night and tried to sneak me out, and that she got caught. And so I just remember I wore my engagement ring up there, and mother was so mad at me for that. Because she had told me, don't wear that ring up there, and I did. And she was so mad at me for wearing the ring up there. And after the procedure and everything, Elliot had asked for the ring back. I didn't have it anymore because she made me sell my engagement ring to help pay for the abortion. So Elliot and I never saw each other again after that. And I lived every day with wondering what happened to my child, and self-loathing, and hated myself, and I never ever felt loved, never. And
Do you think that added to what you already felt growing up, just out of curiosity?
probably, yeah. And then in 2007, my twin sister called me. I believe it was on a Sunday afternoon, and she said the child that you and Elliot had is alive. And I'm like, you know, this is a really cruel joke to play on your twin sister. I said, what are you talking about? And she's like, the child, you had a girl, she's alive. And of course, Mary's got in-laws in Sioux City, so she saw you on one of the Sioux City channels. And yeah, my whole world changed after that. And
But that was not necessarily all comfortable.
No, not at all. No. Because then I'm like, how did this happen?
Right.
And how did I not know that you had survived?
And then wondering how I felt about you. Because it's one
Well-
thing for me to say that I love you and I've forgiven you, but it's a whole other thing.
And Mary had told me that. Mary's my twin sister. Mary had told me, she said, she thinks it was you. And of course, Mary knew it wasn't, you know, but you didn't know that then.
Right.
You know,
and how do you break the great family secret?
Well, yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely, yeah. So it was just crazy. So then, in 2013, Susie contacted you
Yeah.
and got the ball rolling. And I remember one of the first things I asked Susie. I said, "Ask Melissa if she's right-handed or left-handed," because I'm a lefty. I'm the only lefty. And I said, just ask her.
Except
It's a
for
silly
Olivia.
question, but just ask her. And you told her, no, I'm not, but Olivia is. So I did get a lefty out of it. But we just started writing emails slowly.
I sent you that photo book that first
Yes,
Christmas.
yes, I still have it in the car.
I sent you the records, I think. right?
Yes, if you hadn't sent those records, one day Sydney was out swimming in the pool, and I look at those records and I'm like, oh, that's my mom's handwriting. It was mom's handwriting on all those medical records. And since now we've even gotten contact with nurses who told you that when you were brought in there, my mom shook her finger at everybody and said, no one is ever to tell my daughter that this baby survived. I mean, what kind of a monster was she? She was just horrible.
But why do you think she did all that?
To
Because
say,
I'm sure you've thought about it, right?
well, most of the reason was to save their reputations there in the community. He was a school superintendent. She had her prestigious job at the university. What were people going to think? That, you know, my gosh, I got pregnant, not married. So she was going to take care of it. So the baby never existed. And then when you survived, she gave you away. So,
Yeah.
and then that was
How dare I, right?
that was the deep dark secret for all those years.
You know, at one point, Mary, I think I've told you this. So when Mary and I met for the first time, Mary said, "Oh, I am so sorry. I thought that you were cancer." She just remembered you guys sharing a dorm room, and she said at one point you were getting really warm at night, and of course nobody thought anything of it. And
she said I would open the windows and stuff.
I thought you were cancer, Melissa. I'm like, well, thank goodness I was just a baby. I mean, really.
Back in 1977, when all this was going on, I was like, where is God when I need him? I mean, we were religious people. We went to church every week. You know, my mom sang in choir or sang solos, and we had to play our instruments in band or in church. And we were churchy people, but boy, I didn't think there was a God then, but I know there is now, because he's brought my child back in my life.
I think there's so many lessons to unpack from this, and I don't know where to go, right? What do you wish people understood about what you went through?
Well, they need to know that it wasn't my idea. It was absolutely my mother's. You know, she masterminded the whole thing and thought she had carried it out.
What do you think would have, I mean, if she wouldn't have stepped in and forced this abortion, what do you think things would have looked like for you?
I think we probably would have had a tough life, you and I together.
Would it have been just us, or would you have married Elliot?
Oh, I would have married Elliot, yes. Yeah.
Why would it have been tough?
Well, just because I know I would never have seen my family again, which ended up being the case anyway, because of the car accident. You know, that was really hard for them. And I knew
But they wouldn't have ever forgiven Elliot.
No, never. No, because Mary has lifelong complications from that accident, you know.
Yeah.
So,
But isn't that interesting, right? The one thing that seems like it's going to be the worst thing to have happen ends up happening anyway, right?
Yeah, right.
Because you weren't ever close to them again.
No.
What do you wish was different? I mean, I know you do such a good job of accepting that things are the way they are, right? And that you believe that ultimately I was placed with my family because it was the right thing for me. But if there was anything that could be different about?
I wish I didn't have to wait 30 years to find out that you'd survived. I wish I had known, so that we've missed 30 years. Now, can we still get 30 years? Yeah, if I survive 30 more years.
You and me both.
But we missed a lot of time that if I had known many, many years before that, we could have started this relationship a long time ago.
And if you would have known before that I survived, would it have been different for you emotionally? I mean, was there baggage over those 30 plus years?
Oh, I wouldn't have hated myself as much. I wouldn't have, I never contemplated suicide or anything like that, but it was just, never a happy place, you know.
I think the way one of my half sisters, so your daughters, have kind of put it is, we always knew there was something wrong.
There was something missing. A piece of my puzzle was missing, and you're the piece. And I just wish we had to wait that long to find out that you had survived. You know, give it to my family for pulling off 30 years, but that's probably, I wish hadn't had to wait quite so long to find each other.
What would you tell someone right now, if somebody listens to this, if they're thinking about having an abortion, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to think 5 times over, that they will regret it for the rest of their life. They will think forever about that baby and wonder what it could have been and should have been, and just look at you.
And I ask that because, you know, now when people hear our story, people will say to me, well, you know, Melissa, it's different, right? Because she was forced to have that abortion. But what I hear you saying is there was regret, period, end of sentence for you. There were you know, wishes that you had ran away, you know, it just, and you didn't forget about me.
No.
It didn't matter whether it was forced or not, you
Right.
still would have remembered me.
Yep. Yes, absolutely.